Hey beauty babes, welcome to my channel. I'm Maria, aka Agape Love Girl. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I'm going to be doing a look using the ditocosmetics Galaxy shade palette, and I'll also be sharing a few first impressions. I was sent 4 palettes in total, and I have used these palettes, and this will be my first time using the larger palette. So anyways, I will have some thoughts to share with you guys after testing this out today. So since I did use the other palettes, this one is the Sunshiny Shade palette. It's really beautiful. I think so far out of the ones the other 3 that I've tried, the smaller palettes, this one is my favorite. I just love the tones. It's really, really pretty. I did film a look with this palette that is live on my IGTV, so I will link that in the description box if you guys would like to check it out. And then I did a look with the Saturn shade palette. No. I always get confused because this one has greens in it, so I expect there to be greens in there, but that's not it. The Eco Earth shade palette, which I'll put a photo on the screen for you guys to see the look I created with this. So far I've just done one look with that Sun palette, one look with this palette, and then with the Saturn shade palette, I didn't do a complete look. I kind of just played around with the color, so I didn't take a picture or anything like that, but I just kind of played around with them. But today I want to use the big palette and do that together on camera so you guys can see it in action. Now I really have no idea what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to kind of check out this palette and just see what inspires me. I'll put a little video up on the screen so you can see the palette closer up, so you can kind of see what it looks like and things like that. So this does have a couple mattes, but not too many. There's a few little like either satiny or metallic-y type of shadows in here. There is one pressed glitter, which is the Sunshade. It's a big red pressed glitter, and then we have these like planet shades that are kind of these marbled, very flaky looking, very metallic shades. So I would love to test the pressed glitter on camera for you guys, but also want to kind of test out the marbled shades as well. So I kind of have to really think about what I want to do, since there's kind of really 3 mattes in here. So I've got kind of a, I don't know, peachy light tan shade, a brown shade, kind of like a neutral brown shade, and then the yellow shade is matte. All the rest have some kind of shimmer or satin effect to it. So let me think about this real quick. All right, I kind of think I have an idea of what I might do. Nothing set in stone, so I'm gonna go ahead and start off slow, nice and easy. I'm gonna go into that matte tan shade Pluto with a big fluffy blending brush and just go ahead and take that into my crease. Now I don't have any primer down. I have found that with the other palettes I used, I didn't feel the need to use an eyeshadow primer, and they performed really well. I do have a little bit of concealer on my lids because I do already have the rest of my face on, and if you were curious about what is on the rest of my face, I just used products from my makeup basket this month, and I did actually film this for an IGTV video, so I'll have that linked in the description box as well. I definitely appreciate the way these mattes perform. There is a little bit of kick up, but not too bad in the palette, but I'm not getting too much fallout, and then it just, there's quite a good amount of pigmentation on my lid without having to dip in too many times. They just perform really well. So I kind of feel like the look I'm going to go with is going to end up being a little bit Christmassy, just because I know I want to use that red shade, and I'm thinking I may as well go in with a green too. So I mean, it is that time of year, so kind of works out. Okay, now I'm going to go into this kind of satiny, it looks kind of like a satin shade. It's red, and I think the name is called Make. I'm going to take that in a smaller blending brush and just take that to the kind of outer corner of my eye and blend into my crease a little bit as well. I have found that the shimmers in this, or the satiny kind of shades in this palette, perform pretty well, but I haven't tried blending with them yet. Mostly just using as my lid shade, so we'll see how this goes. Okay, that took a little bit to build up. Definitely applies a little bit better when you're more so packing on the lid rather than blending, but it did end up building up very nicely. And then, as I usually do, I'm just gonna go back in with the first blending brush I used to do a little bit more blending. All right, I'm really liking the way this is looking so far, and I really appreciate about these palettes is that the pigmentation is very nice. See, like I haven't even put down a primer like I usually like to use with a lot of my palettes, and the pigmentation is showing up really well. I'm also not getting any fallout, which is really nice since I do already have my face done. So anyways, now I do want to go in with a lid shade, and I want to use one of those kind of marbled shadows. And so what I think I'm going to go ahead and do is go into the shade Jupiter right next to that a red shade, because it's a little bit of a bronzy silver creamy shade that I think will go nice with the red glitter that I plan to put down. So I did notice when I used one of these type of shades in the Sunshiny palette that it didn't apply the best. It's a little bit more flaky and not very opaque. It's almost like a sheer, flaky, sparkly kind of shadow. And so I did end up spraying it with some setting spray, the Morphe setting spray that you guys always see me use. So that's my first experience with a shadow like that. And so I'm gonna see how well this applies on its own. And if I feel like I need to, again, I will just use the setting spray. You guys will see me do that. Now I will say you kind of have to like really press the brush in there and swipe it down to pick up some of the product. So I'm gonna guess that I will need the setting spray for this shadow to really show up. But again, we'll see how it's gonna look. Okay, I'm just getting a flaky, sheer a bit of color, and it's creating some fallout. So I don't want that. So I'm gonna wipe this off. And then I'm gonna go ahead and try to pick some more of that color up as best I can, and then spray my brush with my Morphe setting spray. Okay, I'm still getting quite a bit of fallout with this one. I feel like I had a little bit better experience with the smaller Sunshiny palette. This one's a lot more flaky. And I'm still getting quite a bit of fallout, and it's kind of creating this really, really foiled effect on my lid, which is pretty. It's very neat, but very, very messy. So I'm just gonna kind of continue to work with it and get a little bit more setting spray on here. Really try to make this work. I think I might actually, which I always advise against, is get my brush wet and then dip it into the palette. Normally I always say dip it into the palette, get shadow on the brush first, then spray it, because you don't want to hard pan your shadows, but these are just so dry and flaky. I'm gonna just go ahead and wet this and then dip in and see if that does a better job. Okay, it does a little bit better of a job, but I still feel like it's just so dry. So I'm gonna pick some up and spray it again. I just feel like I'm needing to use a lot of some setting spray on here to get it to really show up. Yeah, this is definitely making quite the mess, but thankfully it's just like more flaky, so I think I'll be able to kind of wipe this away pretty easily. It's very interesting that this palette is a lot more dry compared to the other one that I tried with this type of shadow. Okay, I'm gonna actually show the palette to you guys up close again. And I think there might be different formulas between those marbled shades, because the one I used, Jupiter, you can tell looks very, very flaky. And I'm gonna show you how it looks after having dipped my brush into it and what it looks like. And I'm noticing that there's another shade, Earth, that looks very, 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 very flaky as well. It looks very similar, and I haven't touched that one yet. But then I'm looking at some of the other ones like Mercury and Saturn and Neptune, and those ones don't look as flaky and as dry. So I wonder if those will be a little bit more similar to the ones in the Sunshiny palette that I felt were a little bit more creamy. Now there's also the shades Uranus, I don't know how to pronounce that one right. I don't know how we're doing that. And then Mars, which are possibly a little bit more of the drier looking ones. It's hard to tell. They look like they could be a little bit creamier. They look like they could be a little bit drier. So I'm not quite sure, but yeah, we'll have to figure that out after I test these out a little bit longer throughout the rest of this month, and of course, as usual, update my full review in a beauty replay video. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and test out that pressed glitter shade. Now the pressed glitter shade that I tried in the Sunshiny palette was really, really beautiful. It was a pink holographic, and I felt like it applied well, but it is quite a bit more of a drier formula. It's not quite as sticky and on its own compared to like the Cosmetics Chroma Light or even the Pure Cosmetics pressed glitters that I've tested out in their palettes and things like that. They're quite dry, so I ended up not using any additional glitter glue or anything with the first look I created with the Sunshiny palette and using that pressed glitter, and it stayed well, but it did take a little bit of building up. So we'll see if this pressed glitter in this palette is the same, or or not. But anyways, I'm going to take it on a very, very small flat brush. I'm just going to dip right into it, and I'm going to apply it right here on the like outer third of the center of my lid, right between the two shades that I kind of got down there, and see how that goes. So this is laying down fairly well, but I am getting a little bit of fallout with it as well. It is, it picks up kind of very unevenly. Like I'll kind of swipe down on the palette to pick some up, and sometimes I'll get a bunch of glitter on the brush, and sometimes I'll barely get any. So it's a little bit of a interesting pressed glitter. The consistency is very kind of inconsistent. All right, I built it up how I kind of wanted, but I did get quite a bit of fallout that I'm just kind of cleaning up. Thankfully, because it's not too sticky of a pressed glitter, like the fallout, the glitter fallout is removing easily. But I definitely think, even though I didn't use a glitter glue or anything like that with this look or the first look, I would recommend using some kind of glitter glue to help hold it in place so you're not getting as much fallout. Like I said already, when I wore it without the first look, without any kind of additional glitter glue, it stayed well throughout the day. The main fallout I got was just an application, but it wore well just fine. But then again, I typically don't have issues with my shadows not wearing well. I do have drier eyelids, so things don't tend to fall out too much or wear away too easily on my eyelids. So if you have that issue, I definitely would recommend it just for long wear anyways. But yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and move on. I think that I want to use another one of the metallic shades, and since I said I was going to kind of make this a Christmassy look, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to go with this shade called Sarah's. Not quite sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but anyways, it is this kind of metallic-y green shade, and I'm going to go ahead and put that on my lower lash line. And you can see that just lays down really, really well. This has been my typical experience so far using the kind of metallic or satiny shades in these palettes. They lay down very, very well without needing the help of like a primer or setting spray. This is pretty. I'm kind of more so getting watermelon vibes rather than Christmas vibes, but you know what? I'm cool with it. I think I'm just going to take a clean kind of blending brush just to kind of soften up this line. I feel like it's just looking a little bit too harsh. I might actually grab a little bit more of that shade just to kind of soften it up, like do a little soft blend smoking out action. Not that I want the green too smoked out on my lower lash line, but I want it softened up a bit. All right, looking at this palette, I think there's one more shade that I can use. I'm gonna go ahead and go into the shade Moon and take that on my brow bone. It's a very metallic-y looking silver shade, so hopefully this will look okay. So that is pretty bright and vibrant. Oh, just gonna keep blending and try to soften it up a bit so it's not too crazy. I think I'm gonna take a little bit on a pencil brush and put that on my inner corner as well. All right, I think that's gonna do it for this look so far. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my eyes with some mascara, put my brows on off camera. We'll be back to show you how everything looks up close, and then we will finish with my kind of first impressions, thoughts after testing out all of these palettes. All right, I am back and I finished on my look. I did just put on a black liner in my waterline, some mascara, and my brows. And then if you're curious what is on my lips, I used the Pixie Beauty Matte Last Liquid Lipstick in the shade Posh Nude, which is one of their kind of new holiday collabs in collaboration with Miriam Makwaledge. If you want to see a little bit more about my thoughts on the Pixie Pretties holiday collection, I do have a video all about the new Pixie products if you guys want to check it out and you have not seen it yet. But anyways, this is the completed look. It's interesting, I think. I mean, I think it looks really, really pretty, but not as Christmassy as I was thinking. I feel like I said earlier, a little bit more of a watermelon look, but I don't know, it's pretty. Anyways, I just really want to test out some of the shades in that bigger palette, since this is the one I hadn't used yet, and I feel like I have some thoughts to share with you guys now. So like I said in the beginning, this is just more first impressions. While I've used each of these palettes now, I've only used each of them once. I definitely want to continue using them and develop more of my thoughts, and again, will update my final review after testing them out for the month in next month's beauty replay video, so stay tuned for that if you want to hear my updated thoughts and opinions. But with that being said, I did take a few notes just so I didn't forget anything that I wanted to say about these palettes. And I did actually want to say one thing before I got into my notes. I did receive these palettes in PR. I don't know if I said that in the very beginning of this video, but I meant to, so I'm so sorry that I didn't say that out loud. If you guys know me, you know by now that it doesn't matter if a product was sent to me for free or if I purchased it myself. I'm always going to be honest with you guys, share my opinions, the good, the bad, and all that stuff. It doesn't sway me if a product was sent to me for free. So I do, with that being said, I have some thoughts to share with you. So overall, I did just want to say that I do think these are very nice palettes. I think the theme of them is very fun. The packaging is really cute. The quality I think is really good, but it's not quite consistent. So for example, I think that the mattes and the shimmer slash metallic-y type shades in the palettes perform great. They actually perform really beautifully. Like I said, I haven't felt like I needed to use an eyeshadow primer to get the pigmentation to really show up and really stay. I thought they worked beautiful. They blend beautiful. There's a minimal fallout with those shades, and I really enjoyed them. However, the marbled shades are a bit of a miss. They're just, they didn't perform well. I was gonna say how I would want them to or thought they would, but I didn't really have an expectation because I've never really tried shadows like that have the marbled effect to it. So I didn't really have an expectation for them, but they didn't really perform that well. And also they were a little bit different. The one that I used in today's look, the Galaxy palette, was very dry, very flaky, whereas the one that I used in the Shiny Sun palette was a lot more creamy. And so obviously, like I said already, I do have to continue playing with this and try the other marbled shades, because some of them look like they will be flaky like the one I used today, and others look like they could be a little bit more creamy. I really don't know, so they're a bit hit and miss, and so that's kind of unfortunate. The other thing that I wanted to say was that I feel like the color stories are very strange. They're not quite what I think I would expect, I guess. So let me just start with, I guess, the small one. So the first thing that hit me, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, was that like each of these palettes kind of go, the color scheme kind of goes with the packaging. So you have this Eco Earth palette, and it's, you know, has some blues and greens in here. So when you open it up, you do see some kind of blue shades. There is one green, there's a yellow, and then some other kind of more neutral shades to go in with it, and that kind of makes sense a little bit. The Sunshiny palette, I keep calling it Sun, but it's Shiny Sun. Definitely looks like a very warm tone palette. I feel like what's inside definitely matches what's on the outside very closely, same you know as the Eco Earth one. But then you get to this Saturn shade palette, which mostly has some kind of greens and other earthy tones on the outside, and then when you open it up, this does not look like what's on the outside here. I was really surprised when I opened this up. So while these shades are really pretty, these are tones that speak to me. I love these kinds of wine tones, maroon tones, and there's some pinky tones in here, some really pretty cool tones, but also some warm tones in here too. So it's kind of like a neutral-ish palette, but definitely just doesn't quite make sense for this outer packaging. So when I first saw it, I was a little bit disappointed, thinking it would be some greens in here, but it's not. So I mean, that's just a random thing. It's just a aesthetic thing, so it may not be a big deal to you guys, but just something I just had to point out, because every time I look at it, I'm kind of disappointed. Even though I think this is really pretty, I still get a little bit disappointed when I open it up. But going back to the color stories is what I wanted to point out. I think this color story is a little bit random and a little bit weird and don't quite make sense to me that much. Like if I look at this palette, I know it's supposed to be interesting. It's supposed to be like this galaxy, and it definitely does remind me of like galaxies and planets, and I think it's really pretty. But the color story is very strange. It doesn't quite make sense to me. There's only 3 mattes in here. It's this one here, which is like this little kind of warm tan shade, this matte yellow, and then this matte brown. The rest are all either metallic, satin, or like those marbled, and then the pressed glitter, which is really weird. And I'm trying to think of like what you would pair kind of like these shadows together with just those mattes. Not that you only have to use mattes in your crease, as I used today. I used this kind of satin shade in my crease, and it did beautifully, but it's just a very interesting color story that doesn't quite make sense. You really have to think about it a little bit. So that's interesting. Also, I found it very interesting too is the way they named these shades. Like this red pressed glitter, it's called Sun, which I think, I mean, maybe it's obvious, maybe this is just being too nitpicky, but I just have to say it because it just is a thing to me. this shade Venus is yellow. Like, why wasn't that the sun shade? Also, like, Mars is this color right here. Why wouldn't Mars be the red one here or the red pressed glitter? Why? This, I don't know. That just kind of bothers me. But so anyways, I just think that the names and the color story is a little bit weird. It may not bother you. I feel like it is very unique. They are pretty, but it's kind of weird. Okay, so lastly, before I wrap up this video, I just wanted to also mention the price of these palettes. The price of the smaller palettes is only $10.99, which I think is a very fair price. I think it's right there with like kind of ColourPop, and considering I do think the quality is very good, I think that's a very, very fair price for this, for the quality of the shadows, the way they perform, as well as like the packaging and stuff like that. I think that's a really, really nice price. But I will say that the larger palette, the Galaxy Shade palette, this one is $19.99, so $20. And in my honest opinion, first impressions after just the one time using this, I don't think I would recommend this. While I think, yes, you're getting 18 shadows in here, there's a variety. It's a really fun, beautiful, cute palette, and it's just really cute inside. I don't think I would want to pay $20 for this, like 15 maybe. But also I just, comparing the quality of this bigger one to the smaller palettes, I definitely think that the smaller palettes are of better quality than the bigger palette. And because they're more affordable, yes, you're getting less shadows, but they're more affordable. I don't know, I think the quality is way better in these ones, interestingly enough, than this one. For some reason, they just seem a little bit different. But again, not terrible, because I think the mattes and the metallics in here, shimmers or whatever, are nice, but it does have so many of those marbled shades that I feel like if they're so finicky to work with, to me that just doesn't seem worth it. So my first impressions of these palettes is that I would recommend these smaller palettes if there is one of these where the color story speaks to you and you like them, because I think the quality is really nice, and I don't think you would be disappointed if you were into the color stories these have. Anyways, that's it for kind of my first impressions, thoughts after using those. If any of you guys have tried this brand or these palettes, feel free to share your own experience and opinions, so anyone else coming to this video can have a variety of thoughts and opinions and reviews on these palettes. And if you would like to see more content with these palettes, let me know which one you'd like to see me create another video with next, and I'll be sure to do that. But anyways, with all that being said, I just want to thank you so much for watching, and until next time, much love and hugs to you. Bye, beauty babes. Mwah!